After landing a 4-star prospect from Aliquippa, is Pitt back in the WPIAL? They going to start landing all the WPIAL targets again? Probably not. But let's talk about it on the Morning Pit here on youtube.com/PantherLairCom. All right, that was a terrible teaser there at the open. That cold open, that was not very well executed at all on my part, but I'm not going to go back and tape it over again, so let's just keep this thing rolling. It's the Morning Pit here on a Tuesday on youtube.com/PantherLairCom. I'm Chris Peak from PantherLair.com, the website below there, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. All your Pitt sports needs, football, basketball, and recruiting. And, of course, some message boards to talk about it with other Pitt fans. I mean, you're a Pitt fan. You're following all this stuff. You're following the news, following the recruiting, the transfers, the games, and all those different activities and all those points of interest as it relates to Pitt sports. And you watch all the games, you follow all the news, and then you want to go talk about it with other Pitt fans. Well, the place to do it is right there. Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. So go check it out. That's the website to go to. And of course, our YouTube channel here, youtube.com/PantherLairCom. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our Pitt video content. Our weekly live show that we do every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. We'll have that one tomorrow night for you. And then these daily Pitt videos. These daily morning Pitt videos, I should say, to get every day started with a little bit of Pitt sports talk Monday through Friday right here at youtube.com/PantherLairCom. So like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel and you won't miss any of it. I was thinking about this in light of, well, there were a few things actually that kind of led to me thinking about this and getting into this conversation today about the WPIAL. And I'll say right off the bat, when I say WPIAL, I'll often try to be as accurate as possible. I'll say WPIAL and City League or Western PA Kids. Sometimes I'll just default to WPIAL or WPIAL as sort of a shorthand for everybody in Western PA. Obviously, the WPIAL and the City League are two distinct entities, but by and large, when we talk about recruiting in Western Pennsylvania, we're talking about the WPIAL and the City League sort of interchangeably as one big group of prospective student athletes, as they're called, PSAs, right? Even though they're very distinct groups and they're very different. I think the approach is different, but we're talking about Western PA kids. And so sometimes I kind of just default to some shorthand because I don't feel like taking the time to say WPIAL and City League or WPIAL or City League. It's a blanket term of Western Pennsylvania. It's a blanket idea of Western Pennsylvania recruits. And with getting Cameron Lindsay last week, the commitment from the 4-star linebacker from Aliquippa, and then a couple developments that happened over the weekend, I started thinking about Pitt in the WPIAL and Pitt in the City League again. And said, well, you know what, we haven't talked about that in a little while. And it's recruiting season. Everything's going right now with recruiting. Maybe this is a good time to dig into the discussion again. Because while I sort of dismissed it in that poorly executed cold open, where I said, is Pitt back in the WPIAL? Maybe not. The reality is, I think a better way to look at it is, does Pitt have a chance to start making some progress in the WPIAL, making some progress in Western Pennsylvania? And I think the answer to that is possibly. And we've talked about the momentum that the program has. We've talked about the success that they've had over the last few years and how that's seemingly started to translate into some recruiting success. We've talked about sort of the state of the program, the stability of the coaching staff, the facilities, and all these things that are sort of moving in the right direction that should have a trickle-down effect on recruiting. And I think you are seeing it a little bit in last year's recruiting class with a few guys. I think you're seeing it in this year's recruiting class so far with the early success that they've had, the quality of players that they've gotten, and the fact that they've been able to get 22 commitments, 19 announced, 11 before you even get to June, and another 11 since the beginning of the month. I think that reflects on the momentum that the program has, the perception of the program, and kind of how it's being viewed by recruits. And I think one thing, as we move forward, one big indicator of that progress and that perception and that momentum is going to be how Pitt does locally. And the next few years coming up don't necessarily look terribly stronger than the last few years that we've seen. They look about the same. But there are really good players out there, and there should be some opportunities for Pitt to have some success on the recruiting trail locally. And again, this is fresh in my mind because Cameron Lindsay committed last week. But after Lindsay committed on Thursday, Pitt had a camp on Sunday, a prospect camp, where they ended up offering a couple of local guys who I think are pretty prominent and worth knowing about. One is Bradley Gompers, kid from Central Catholic, 2025 recruit. We're putting him in the Rivals database as an athlete. Pitt likes him as a linebacker. Boston College likes him as a linebacker. West Virginia says maybe linebacker, maybe tight end. UNLV offered him, of course, with Brendan Marion, offered him as a wide receiver. He's a 6'5", 200-pound kid, runs in the low 4.5s, got a 10-foot, 2-inch broad jump. He's an athlete. He's going to play wide receiver at Central Catholic. He's going to line up at outside linebacker. He's going to be all over the place making plays for the Vikings this year. And he looks like the kind of prospect Pitt should be after locally. I mean, Pitt, of course, likes him as a linebacker because anybody who's got, who's a big athlete moves to linebacker. But I mean, this is a guy who could legitimately play, be a playmaking tight end, I think, in college. I mean, he's a big receiver right now in high school. Like I say, he's 6'5", 200 pounds going into his junior year of high school. So he's not even heading toward his senior year yet. He's going into his junior year of high school. He's already got that size, and he's got the speed and the athleticism to make that size really enticing and tantalizing for college coaches. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him keep adding offers throughout the summer and then really blow up in the fall and the winter. But I mean, it wouldn't be surprised me at all if by the time you watch this video, he's got another offer. They're sort of coming fast for Bradley Gompers right now as he's getting out on the recruiting trail, getting out on the camp circuit, and being seen by college coaches. They're coming away impressed by it, as you would expect for a guy his size with his speed. So he got an offer out of the camp on Sunday. And then Larry Moon, kid going into 9th grade at Aliquippa, was at Pitt's camp on Sunday and got a scholarship offer for whatever it's worth when we're talking about a kid coming out of 8th grade. And I'll say right off the bat, I tend to shy away from doing too much reporting. Certainly this kind of, talking about kids that are that young. I mean, for the longest time, we kind of had a cutoff line of around like sophomores. We didn't really talk. We really didn't like to talk to sophomores all that much, but we've sort of bent that a little bit, and now we'll do some more interviews with those guys. I just interviewed Gompers yesterday, actually. So, he's a guy coming out of his sophomore year. It gets a little. I mean, we're covering high school recruits, so inevitably we're talking about teenagers here, no matter what. But the further you get back in the grades, the more. The more I sort of feel like, we can wait before we talk to you. But Larry Moon's an intriguing guy, and he's a kid going into 9th grade that we're talking about here. But he's already 5'11", 170 pounds. He's a really good athlete. He's Pitt was his first scholarship offer, again, for whatever it's worth for a kid coming out of middle school. But I think West Virginia followed up shortly thereafter, and I imagine the more that he plays, and he's going to go to Aliquippa and play as a freshman this year, I'm sure. I mean, that scholarship list is going to blow up. And so I bring that up just to talk about the fact, or just to kind of segue into the fact that, with Cam Lindsay committing last weekend, and then these two WPIAL targets getting offers over the weekend, or Cam Lindsay committing last week, and these two WPIAL targets getting offers over the weekend, I just started thinking about the WPIAL and what kind of opportunity Pitt has here if they're able to continue their success on the field, what they might be able to parlay that into with recruiting locally. Now, 2024 class hasn't really shown it. Quentin Martin, committed to Penn State. Anthony Specca, committed to Penn State. Ryan Corey, the offensive lineman from Pine Richland, committed to Wisconsin. Cole Sullivan, kid from Central Catholic, committed to Michigan. I'm not sure how hard Pitt pushed after him, but he's committed to Michigan. Peter Gonzalez, the son of former Pitt quarterback Pete Gonzalez. He isn't committed anywhere that I've seen, but he did announce his top 3 of Penn State, Virginia Tech, and Miami. Yeah, who's not listed there. And he didn't even take an official visit this in June. Pitt's got Lindsay, who I mentioned, and Ty Uhas, the Central Catholic defensive end. And that's what they've got from the Whippeal in Western PA. And my guess is that'll probably be about it for the 2024 class. Now, if they sign 2, that'll be the most they've signed in a single class locally since 2021. 2021 class, that's when they really made their biggest killing basically since 2016. They got Elliot Donald, they got Nikai Johnson, they got Dorian Ford, and they got Stephon Hall. I mean, that's a really good group. And what's funny is you look at that 2021 recruiting class in Western Pennsylvania, Elliot Donald got him. The number, according to Rivals rankings, all right, as we run down the rankings, Elliot Donald was number 1. Pitt got him. Number 2 in Western PA, according to the Rivals rankings, Derek Davis from Gateway. Went to LSU. He's at Pitt now. Number 3 was Nikai Johnson. Pitt got him. Number 4, Donovan McMillan. Peters Township safety. Went to Florida. He's at Pitt now. Number 5, Dorian Ford. Pitt got him. Number 6, Aaron Gunn. I think he was an offensive lineman. Went to Louisville. Andre Porter. Number 7 went to Maryland. Khalil Dinkins went to Penn State. And then whatever number we're down to, 4, 8, 9, Stephon Hall went to Pitt. And so 4 out of the top 9 in Western PA went to Pitt straight out of high school. 2 more have joined. So 6 out of the top 9 are currently on Pitt's roster. 6 out of the top 9 in Western PA's, top-ranked guys. 6 out of the top-ranked guys. 6 out of the top 9 guys in the Western PA rankings in the class of 2021 are now at Pitt. That was a pretty good year. Since then, they've only gotten 1 in the 2022 class. That was Sean Fitzsimmons. And 1 in the 2023 class. That was Cruz Brookins, a late addition to the class. And so just by having 2 guys this year, which doesn't seem like many when we're talking about Whippeal recruiting, 2 in Cameron Lindsay and Ty Uhas, I mean, that's still more than, that's the same amount as the previous 2 years put together. 2020, they signed 1 guy. So, 21, they had the huge year with Donald and Johnson and Ford and Hall. 2020, they got Deion Hayes, and that's it. They missed on Michael Carmody and Zariah Fisher and Aaron Beatty and Josh Rawlings and Josh Kaltenberger. And, they didn't really go after a few of these guys, but Carmody, Fisher, Beatty, Rawlings, were all top targets. They missed on all those guys. And, there's something to be said, too, about the fact that there were only really 5 guys that Pitt was even trying for in that class. The 2022 class, when they got Sean Fitzsimmons, they were really only trying for 3 guys. Tyrese Fearby, Donovan Heinisch, and Sean Fitzsimmons. 2023, when they got Cruz Brookins, kind of the same thing. They only really had 4 legitimate targets in the Whippeal for that recruiting class. Tamir Robinson, Lamont Payne, and Rodney Gallagher. And then Brookins, who showed up as a late offer. So, up until that point, they were really only recruiting 3 guys in the Whippeal and City League. 3 guys in Western PA. So, this year, where Pitt's got 2 commitments, they're at least targeting more guys too. I think you would say there's legitimately 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe about 6 or 7 guys that they're legitimately going after in this class. Already, next year's class, the 2025 class, like I mentioned, Bradley Gompers, already that class is looking like a I don't know if I want to say better, because Quentin Martin is such a high-end prospect in this 2024 class, and I'm not sure if 25 has a guy on that level yet. They might end up there. There's some possibilities, but Pitt's already got 5 legitimate targets in the 2025 class. Deshaun Burnett, a linebacker from Amani. Tyke Hayes, a running back from Aliquippa. Brady O'Hara, a tight end from North Catholic. Antoine Black, probably a DB type of do-everything athlete at Laurel Highlands. And then Gompers, who I mentioned, the linebacker, athlete, tight end, receiver, whatever you want him to be at Central Catholic. They've already got 5 legitimate targets that they're working on there. And then even in the 26 class, you've got 3 guys that already have claimed Pitt offers: David Davis and Kyshawn Robinson and Duron Barksdale. And then, of course, Larry Moon, like I mentioned, the kid going into 9th grade out of Aliquippa. It's going to be, this group that I just talked about, that's about 10 guys. Even if we leave out the middle school, or if we leave out Larry Moon just for a second and look at these next 2 classes coming up, 2025 and 2026, there's good players in there. may or may not be program making or program breaking players, but certainly a Tyke Hayes, the running back from Aliquippa, is a really, really good player. Deshaun Burnett looks legit. I saw Brady O'Hara, the tight end from North Catholic, in person at Pitts Camp last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess. Yeah, he's a big tight end who can run. He looks really good. Gompers is intriguing as a big guy who can run well. But ultimately, it's a good class. It's coming into shape. It's coming into focus, I guess. Pitt's, locking in on some of these guys and offering and starting to make their case to try and land them. It's going to be interesting to see how they do in light of the success that they've been having on the field. Again, they got 2 guys this year, 1 last year, 1 the year before. 4 the year before that, but only 1 before that one. 2019, they got 2. It was Kai Wright and Will Gibson. And I don't even need to name the other guys in that class for you to probably guess that Kai Wright and Will Gibson weren't ranked very highly. They were actually number 5 and 6. So it kind of speaks of the class. Jaquay Hubbard, the offensive lineman who went to Virginia and then ended up, I think, in a junior college or something. Andrew Kristofich at Notre Dame. MJ Devonshire went to Kentucky. And then Joey Porter Jr., who ended up at Penn State. 2018, they got 3 guys, Devin Danielson, Jake Cradle, and Blake Zabovic. I mean, that's a good group, but they missed on Phil Dracovic. They missed on TJ Banks and Quantel Rains. And again, Banks and Rains may not have turned out to much, and Dracovic ended up here to begin with, but there's still that question of recruiting locally and the success they are or are not having with these guys coming out of high school. And for the most part, it's been not. You know what I mean? It's been not having that success. But it is interesting to look ahead at the names that are coming up next. These guys that I'm talking about: Burnett, Hayes, O'Hara, Black, Gompers, Davis, Robinson, Barksdale. These are going to be the guys we're watching. Particularly, because we're always watching WPIAL recruiting. We're always watching Western PA recruiting. But particularly if Pitt continues to have success, these are going to be the guys that we're going to be keeping an eye on to see if it turns into... to see what it turns into recruiting-wise. And particularly offensive guys, like a Tyke Hayes, the running back from Aliquippa, or Brady O'Hara, the tight end from North Catholic, probably feel a little better about their chances with Hayes than O'Hara. But, I think defensive guys, there should be a natural draw there. Deshaun Burnett, Bradley Gompers, and Antoine Black. There should be a natural draw for the defensive players there, which we've talked about a lot with recruiting overall. The offensive guys, though, it's going to be trickier. And, God forbid there actually could be a quarterback coming out of the WPIAL. Stone Saunders is about the closest thing. He's at, I think he's at McDevitt in Harrisburg. 4-star quarterback in the 2025 recruiting class, top 150 recruit, number 12 pro-style quarterback prospect in the country. And really, there's no indication that he's given Pitt any kind of look since he got the offer. I mean, it's just not, they just don't seem to be on his radar at all. So I don't think you're going to get your quarterback out of Western PA, at least not the first time around. You can get him, and then again, if we had to go all the way, we had to find a kid from Harrisburg to talk about for this conversation because Western PA is just not turning them out. But maybe you get him the second time around like they did with Dracovic. That might be the move. And, kind of along those lines, and like we talked about with Devonshire, we talked about with Derek Davis and Donovan McMillan, some of the guys that go away still might end up coming back a couple years down the line. And so it'll be interesting to sort of revisit some of these classes and see not only who signs with Pitt out of high school, but who ends up coming around, after a few years and coming back to it. So the original question, is Pitt back in the WPIAL? No, but they've got an opportunity here. They've got an opportunity with some good prospects coming up in these next couple classes, with the success on the field, with potential to start building some better atmospheres at Acrisure Stadium, to getting more interest in the program, and just overall success. They've got a chance to chip away at it and start building something back up in the WPIAL. We'll see. But I think because they were laying the groundwork with some of these guys like Gompers and Moon over the weekend, it started getting me thinking about it. And obviously coming on the heels as it did of Cameron Lindsay's commitment last week. So We'll see. The WPIAL. There's always an ongoing discussion about what Pitt needs to do in the WPIAL, what they can do in the WPIAL, what they should be doing in the WPIAL, what they need to be able to do in the WPIAL. And we've certainly gone back and forth about that many times over, and we probably will continue to do so many times over again. But for now, let's just say there's some really good prospects coming up in Western Pennsylvania. Pitt needs to keep its success up on the field in order to have a good chance of landing those guys. All right, that'll do it for today's edition of the Morning Pick. Keeping an eye on everything recruiting heading into the official visit weekend. That starts on Thursday, so we'll have a full preview of that for you in 2 days, because today is Tuesday. Lose track of my days pretty frequently over here at youtube.com/pantherlaircom. So like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/pantherlaircom, and then head over to the website, panther-lair.com, pittsburgh.rivals.com, to get all of your Pitt sports coverage. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We appreciate it. Hope you've had a good start to the week so far and a great Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Morning Pit right here, youtube.com/pantherlaircom.